Everybody with Angela Williamson is made possible by Fireheart Pictures and viewers like you. Thank you. According to the Pew Institute, the importance of 9/11 transcends age, gender, geographic, and even political differences. Although there have been no terrorist attacks on the scale of 9/11 in 2 decades, people feel the threat has never fully gone away. For those of us who remember 9/11, it reshaped how we think of war and peace and our own personal safety. Tonight, we'll look at 9/11 20 years later. I'm so happy you're here for this special episode.
From Los Angeles, this is KLCS PBS. Welcome to Everybody with Angela Williamson, an innovation, arts, education, and public affairs program. Everybody with Angela Williamson is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you. And now your host, Dr. Angela Williamson.
Our show starts with Linda Kalocsay. Linda, thank you so much for being here. I mean, it is just an honor to have you here today and to talk about 9/11. On that day, you had just very different experience on 9/11. I'd love you just to talk a little bit about that.
Sorry, it takes me a minute to kind of go back there. 9/11 was a really life-changing day for me. I had been living in New York, and I was able to get a fabulous job and great experience, great opportunity with Morgan Stanley. And that morning I went to work and like normal, like any other day, and it was a beautiful day outside. So when I got up from taking the subway, actually, I decided to instead of going up to my office, I wanted to go outside and just enjoy the weather, because I don't think I really took a breath to kind of just see like, oh wow, I made it. Like I thought I made it. I was so excited that I had, come so far in my career. And the rest of the day just, obviously fell apart and just changed the world and changed me as a person forever. So yeah, it's really challenging.
And I mean, for the entire nation, but it's different for people who are actually there in the Twin Towers. And during that time, you were in the second tower, correct?
Correct. So I was in the second tower that was hit, but the first tower to fall. So Tower 1 was hit first, around, I think it was about the 100th floor or something like that. I don't remember exactly. And I had already been in my office that morning, had a meeting at 8 that ended right promptly at 8:30. And I think it was about a few minutes later, me and a couple colleagues, we decided to go get some water and just grab a cup of coffee down in our cafeteria. So my office was on the 63rd floor, and when we came out to the elevator, they had told us the elevators were not working. They weren't in service at that time. So we're like, it happened quite frequently, and we didn't think anything of it. So we decided we'd just take the stairs down to our cafeteria, which is on the 45th floor. And being as young as I was at the time, not a problem. Yes. So came out to the cafeteria, and there was a very strange smell. Not very many people were in there. And we got our coffee. I grabbed a bottle of water, and when we checked out, they said, "Don't worry about it. You don't have to pay for it." And we're like, "Why?" And they're like, "Oh, don't worry, just go back to the office." Okay, nobody said anything, but it smells funny and something's going on, clearly, because who gives anything away for free? So
that doesn't happen in New York very often, does it?
Anywhere, really. And so, the way that I'm sure everybody already knows, but the way that the building was structured was really all of the offices and everything had, spectacular views, and then all the facilities and everything were in the center. So we went to go sit down in the cafeteria, and as we were walking by the window, I just saw this big file cabinet. It looked like a big file cabinet. Maybe it was a desk, I don't even remember. And it was like a big fireball falling in front of the window where we were just about to sit down. And I was like, oh, wow. Expletive.
Yeah.
And, that's when we ran to the group that I was with. There was 3 of us. We ran to the window and saw everything on fire. And we didn't know what was going on because our building was not hit yet. So, we didn't know, like, why is everything on fire on the ground? And then from the view that we could see, it was the American Express building, and that beautiful patina building, like on top of it, there's this beautiful patina, and it was all burning, and it was so crazy. So we came back out to the elevator, and they told us that the elevators were not working still. And we're like, oh, great. So, what do you do? My thought was, everything's on fire in the ground. I don't know if I want to go upstairs and go get my purse. Everything is left up there. So we just decided, let's just start walking down the stairs casually. We didn't think that there was anything, harmful or anything at that point. And we had made it down a few flights of stairs, and for me personally, I must have blacked out at some point because the plane did hit our building, and I was in the stairwell, and I don't remember. I only remember having bruises on one whole side of my body. I had a lot of injuries on one side of my body, so I must have been thrown somehow by the force, but don't remember anything. So, and then it was after that point that more people started coming into the stairwell, and it was kind of frantic, and it was chaotic. It was scary because we didn't know what was going on. You heard the building cracking, and you heard so many people like crying, screaming. It was like thunder in the stairwell from all the people going down the stairs and everything, and you just weren't sure what was going on because you're in this huge building, and it's unfathomable, like, that you're in danger.
Yes.
So, I remember seeing the firefighters come up the stairwell, and when we eventually came out to what was the mezzanine level, that's the street level. It's not actually the bottom level. There was a few of us that had tried to exit the building, and there was so much debris blocking all of the exits already at that point that we couldn't get out of there. And it was just it was scary. One of the girls that I was with, the interior of the mezzanine and the building, when you get into the elevator area, is all white marble. It was beautiful, like 3 floors of marble. It was gorgeous. And so it was falling apart. It was cracking, and it was falling above our heads, and there was sparks coming out from like shorts and this electricity, and just like, what the hell is going on here? Yeah. So we were actually pulled by some firefighters to go down into the lower levels of the building, and I know for myself, I was very hesitant to go even further in a building that I didn't feel comfortable being in. Yeah. And when we popped back up, there was a lot of firefighters that were actually cleaning a path for us to go, but it wasn't, it wasn't 100% clear, but they were trying to push the larger debris out of the way for us to be able to escape. They were like, the building's falling. And we're like, okay, to run. Yeah. And so we just started running even more, and we ducked into a pizza parlor, and got under the tables like you would for like an earthquake drill.
Yes.
Because I'm not, I don't
Because
know what
you're
to do in
originally
New York.
from here. You're from California.
Right.
So the years of
Stop, drop and roll.
yes.
So so we got under the table, and luckily I had a jacket on, and I covered my face and waited for, the debris to come by. And just after that was, I think, in a state of shock for a good couple of hours, trying to just get back to my apartment and try and call like my family and friends and tell them that I'm still alive. The only reason I was going back into my apartment is I had so much soot on me from that day, that debris, and just, I was taking showers about 4 or 5 times a day. I just felt like I couldn't get clean enough. And, it's really nerve-wracking when I think it was about 10 o'clock at night. I think it was about around 10 o'clock that night. I think it was, I don't remember what government agency it was, but they came in to my apartment while I was taking a shower with guard dogs or sniff dogs or whatever you call them. And they said that there was a bomb threat. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have no peace anywhere. So I just started walking. I literally never wanted to be back in my apartment again because I didn't feel safe there. I felt safe out and about. And so, I ended up doing a lot of retail therapy and walking the city aimlessly, to be honest with you. It was really strange because, if you've ever been in New York, there were guards with big AR rifles on every corner, and there was tanks coming down 7th Avenue, and you're just like, where am I?
Not in the U.S. anymore. It's almost like you're in a war zone.
Yeah, and it was quiet. New York's not quiet. No. The only thing you could hear is if you went down past Canal Street is, all the service vehicles down there still trying to, help as much as they could at that point. And I actually ended up one night, I think this was probably the second night, I couldn't sleep, and so I just decided to walk, and I ended up walking back down towards the World Trade Center, and I had a military guy come up to me and say I couldn't go anywhere, and I just sat on the corner crying like, I don't know where I am. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, where am I? What am I doing here?
And how do you get over that kind of experience? Because you came back to California. How did Linda get over that, or do you ever get over it?
You'll never get over it. Everybody deals with trauma their own way, and I want to respect that. I lost 3 friends that day. That's hard for me to sit with every year on the anniversary. I make sure that I watch the anniversary and I want to hear their names. Ooh, I want to hear their names in the memorial. Give me a minute. And I don't think I allowed myself to properly grieve, until the 1-year anniversary, to be honest with you. I eventually came back to Los Angeles, and I threw myself into work and really just tried to forget about it as much as I could, frankly. And I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. I was very, very closed down. I just wanted to kind of do what I felt like doing at the time, which was put it in the back of my mind. And then there was the morning of the anniversary, the 1-year anniversary, and I remember driving to work that morning, and I was stopped at a stop sign, and I just broke down crying, and I had people honking at me, getting out of their cars, yelling at me, and I just was like, not today. Not today. But I was there for at least a good 10 minutes because I was not going to move. I was frozen. And then I realized, like, I need to kind of deal with this head on versus, you know, how I chose to deal with it when I first came back. So it took a while, and, you know, over the years, you change your perspective on it. I know for me, I know it's hard that people have lost someone in that. Almost 3,000 people died that day, and I get that. But kind of like a veteran going through war or something of that nature, you know, there's a lot of us out there that have ghosts with us that we know and see and feel every day. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to comprehend, is that, yeah, you're grieving someone that lost it, but I'm grieving what I can still see in my mind. Yeah. I could feel it, I could touch it, I could hear it, I can see it.
You smell it, because you keep talking about the smell.
I keep talking about the smell. So yeah, it's different.
Linda, thank you so much for taking time to share that story with us. And I mean, just that you have worked very hard to continue to move forward, but you're giving us another perspective, which I think is really important. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for being so supportive.
Absolutely, absolutely, thank you. And come back as I continue my conversation remembering 9/11 20 years later with Colonel Garth Massey.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Welcome back. Colonel Massey, thank you so much for being here. I have a question for you. Do you think, are we safer today after 20 years after 9/11, or is that a question that I should not be asking?
That's a tough, it's a tough question, because you can't, how do you measure safety?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think the answer is we're as safe as we want to be, right? We're as safe as we imagine our world, right? So a lot has happened since 9/11. In many ways, communities came together like they never had, or that they hadn't in decades. You know, our country's been at war, so we have a whole influx of people who've now been to combat and come back. And we're trying to understand that how a tribe or a society works that sends people off to do something and then has to welcome them and then integrate them back into a system that is not designed to understand their experiences. That's why you see so many veterans who suffer when they come back, because they're returning to something that they maybe don't understand, or that looks different than what they thought it should be. But I think the broader question, I mean, what I do with my company is we teach leadership, and we talk about character, and we talk about the way people grow. The broader question is not whether or not you're safer. The question is, like, what are you working towards as an individual? What are you as a person doing? You know, it's the old, like, take care of the log in your own eye before you talk about the dust mote in your neighbors, right?
Yes.
So we live in a society and in a country and in a world where you can do personal development, you can do growth. The question is, what are you focused on, right?
But how do you teach virtue and character?
You start by defining, and you start by talking about it, right? So there are 4 virtues.
Okay.
Now, they sometimes go by different names, but they're all 4 the same. It's temperance, which is how we manage information, right? Do we get overly excited? Do we get depressed? Do we get, you know, angry, right? So being able to regulate yourself is temperance. Prudence, understanding knowledge, right? So the idea that we should be seeking knowledge, not seeking 140 bits on a tweet or you know, the response on a Facebook post, because social media is not knowledge. Yeah. You know, you have to actually go to a root, to a source, and not fall for what could be considered propaganda, but learn things, right? Justice, right? And that the justice idea has been something we've been fighting since the beginning of Western civilization. 4,000 years ago, justice was might makes right. If I can take it, it is mine, and that is what the gods must want. That is just. But our society is not built on that.
No.
So justice is a very different understanding of how a society and a group can work together.
Okay.
And it's important that individuals understand their role in that. And then the last one is my favorite, and that's courage. You know, courage is being willing to do things when everything in you is screaming not to. And it doesn't always mean, you know, leaping in front of the burning building or the bus or diving into, you know, cover when there's a fire going on. It doesn't mean you have to sacrifice yourself. It means you have to be willing to face things. And all of that put together comes down to the hardest part of leadership, right? The most dangerous tool in leadership is a mirror, because it's terrifying. If you look at yourself, if you look at how you've grown as a person, it's frightening, because if you find something you don't like, whose fault is it? Right? And that's scary, because that means you have to do the work to fix it. You have to do the work to make it better, and you have to own or be responsible for what you found, how you got to that place, and what you're going to do about it in the future. Now, if you take all four of those and you mix them together, there's two other ones that you ought to throw on top. One is humility. We should talk about humility. You know, so you asked if we're safer. It's not whether we're safer. Are we humble enough to accept that there are things we could do to improve and to grow? I mean, this country is founded on the ideals of we can make it whatever we want. It's not a store. You don't walk in and say, hey, there's only 2 brands of hangers and I wanted another brand of hanger. I'm mad at the store, right? And now I'm going to complain, get me your manager. That's not how it works. You go in and you're looking for, you know, something, a hanger if that's what it is, right? And it's understanding the value of creating other opportunities or making something new and living in a place where people will allow you to do it. Well, humility is required to do that, because you have to be able to recognize that you don't have the answers already. It might not be right. You might not like it, right? But you can move forward and make it whatever you want. And then the last trait, if you have all of those.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
For one person.
It's a lot. But, you know, this is 4,000-year-old wisdom, you know, from the Greeks. This is 2,000-year-old, you know, from the Christian religion. This is in every major faith has these 4 traits.
Okay.
And if you add humility, you can grow from it. And then you add the last one, which is a mouthful, but it's magnanimity.
Oh my goodness.
Which just means
yes,
have a big goal and something worth living towards. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, right? But it means that you're working towards something. And we're not talking about a fancy car. We're not talking about the big house on the cliff. We're talking about a value and purpose. So if you look at our world, right, we talk a lot about you have to be passionate about what you do at work.
yes,
But that's something external that's imposed on you. Magnanimity is saying, I need to have something I'm working towards that I can be passionate about. And it goes back to the mirror. Who is responsible for your passion? Like, you're here and you get to do media and you get to be on TV and you get to have people, you know, see you on the street and come high-five you and talk to you, and you're influencing people through exposure. But that's an external. Like internal, there has to be a message. There must be something about you, you know, that you're working towards, that you want to achieve. That's magnanimity. And make it something good. If we all do that, yeah, we're safer. We're also happier. We have life with purpose. We can achieve more, you know, but it starts by understanding us as individuals. And unfortunately, I think we spend too much time pointing to all the externals. You know, what's wrong out there that if I could just fix, you know, the yak mules in eastern Nepal, the world would be a nicer place. But that's not what it's about. It's about understanding how we can live with courage, justice, prudence, temperance, wrap it all in humility, and then have a goal. Like, do all that.
And how does that impact what we do in the community? I mean, because that seems that that's all internal, that's self, but at some point for us to all work together, you kind of have to get external to spread that and build those relationships. Can you do that?
You can, but I would tell you, think small. Or start small. Maybe that's a better way, right? Like, I can fix the relationship with my spouse. I have a great one,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But I can date her. You know, we've been married for a while. I can take her on a date. I can celebrate, you know, the things that she does that are beautiful. I can help my children study or read or play. I can encourage their friends to come over and have them play, right? I can set up a block party with a picnic. I can set up an opportunity to stand around a campfire and sing songs with the guitar, or to share our stories. Those are small things. But if we can all find ways with humility, right,
Yes.
to work and have a better connection, to share, to talk,
Yeah.
what we do is we create a place where you can have your story and you can come tell it and I can hear it. And then in that richness of exchanging these ideas, we both grow. If we think too big, we think we need a banner to do it.
Yeah.
I have to have the slogan picture of whatever Dr. Williamson is, and it's on a slogan, and then I have to stand there and everything that it could potentially represent and does represent, we have to debate about. It's better if we share our stories, because there are things about you that are worth knowing. And once we get good at that and we practice that, practice small conversations, one person, sharing real ideas, that's virtue. That's building character. And that kind of stuff makes neighborhoods better. We often listen to other people's stories with, let me give you a moment to tell you how you should have fixed that or how you should have solved that. And I'll just say stop. You don't need to do that. In fact, there's an old expression, unsolicited advice is for the sender. So if I hear your story and I come back and go, well, let me tell you what you should have fixed, right? That's something about me that feels like it needs to take control or direct or manage some aspect of your life. I don't need to do that, right? So one, like you said, listen. The listening is the important part, but then recognize that there is something about your story that I can learn from and look for that. If I listen to your story with okay, let me listen to her story and then tell her how she can fix it. That's what we do. That's what gossip is based in, right? But if I listen to your story and I'm looking for the nugget that helps me grow, that improves my humility or changes my goals or helps me with my courage or justice or prudence or temperance, if I can hear that and I can grow through reflection, through listening, I don't have to tell you anything. I have to be enriched by listening. It just is hard and it takes patience and it doesn't happen in the clicks of social media. But it does happen if you start small and you sit on your porch and you play a harmonica, or you invite the neighbors over and you have a drink, or you gather your friends around a campfire and you share a story. Like those little beautiful moments where we're present and we're learning from each other, that's powerful. And that's how leadership grows too. You have to have those skills.
What a wonderful way. You just always know how to end right on the proper note. So thank you so much for this.
Oh, it's fun to be back.
Oh, and thank you for helping me just talk a little bit about what we can do after 9/11, 20 years later. So thank you. And thank you for joining us on Everybody with Angela Williamson. Viewers like you make this show possible. Join us on social media to continue this conversation. Good night and stay well.